Hi, everybody, and welcome into episode 13 of Between the Pages. We're going to be separating Between the Pages and paper cuts, so the book discussions and the writing prompts. Between the Pages is now on episode 13, and we are covering Witch World by Christopher Pike. I want to let you guys know that Christopher Pike has been a long-loved author of mine. I have been in love with Christopher Pike since I was like 12 years old. And speaking of when I was 12 years old, I have props. Last Act, I don't know how much you can. Last Act was the first book I read by Christopher Pike, and it was just sitting on the shelf one day, and as you can imagine, 12-year-old Nessa just lived in the library. Like, I was a student aide, even when I wasn't supposed to be a student. Oh my goodness, student aide in the library. And I can't believe it didn't click then and there that I could be a librarian or that I wanted to be a librarian. But it didn't. So I found Christopher Pike and I fell in love. Fell in love with his beautiful, wonderful, fantastic stories of murder. Yeah. Can you imagine 12-year-old me loving murder? No? Yeah, so you can, because that's what I love. It was murder, horror, and fantasy novels, and they were amazing. They were gripping, breathtaking. I was captivated so much when I was a child by Christopher Pike and his works. So, Witch World, which is what we're going to be covering today, has actually been, it's been out for a while. I want to say 2014 is when Witch World published. And I got it for Christmas because every year my childhood best friend and I, we exchange gifts. She's my daughter's godmother, so we're very close still since we were like 10 years old. Anyway, so she got me that, and the next year she got me the next book, and the next year she got me the next book because it was a series. I only have 3 of them. I think only 3 are published. If there's any more, I don't know. But I never read them. And I feel horrible for it. So, I took on reading Witch World these past couple of weeks. And I was really excited to do it because I've been so in love with Christopher Pike, who happens to live in California, and I have spoken to him. It's amazing. So I want to give you guys the spoiler-free synopsis, and then we'll get into the discussion. Absolutely no spoilers in this synopsis. You guys ready for this? Witch World by Christopher Pike. Heading off for a weekend in Las Vegas with her friends, Jessie Raleigh has only one worry: how to make it through the road trip in the same car with her ex, Jimmy. The guy who broke her heart 5 months ago when he dumped her for no reason. The guy who's finally ready to tell her why he did it. Because he went back. But what Jessie doesn't realize is that Jimmy is the least of her problems. In Las Vegas, she meets Russ, a mesmerizing stranger who shows her how to gamble and who never seems to lose. Curious, Jessie wants to know his secret, and in response, alone in his hotel room, he teaches her a great game that opens a door to reality, to Witch World. Suddenly, Jessie discovers that she's stumbled into a world where some people can do the impossible, and others may not even be human. For a time, she fears she's lost her mind. Are there really witches? Is she one? I got that synopsis from Goodreads. If you guys don't know, I absolutely love Goodreads, and I have been keeping up with it for the past, 3 years. So, if you're interested, go ahead and make a Goodreads account. You can follow me, you can friend me on Goodreads and keep up with what I'm reading, my to-read list, which, yes, Wolf, your book is on there. It's just, I have a lot of other books on top of it. Sorry, I love you. Anyway, getting off track. So that with that synopsis, it sounds really interesting, right? This book sounds really captivating and fantastic. I don't normally like to hold negative book discussion, especially by one of my favorite authors. That being said, while I was reading this book, I felt as if I was being spoon-fed an adolescent fantasy story without depth or character development, polluted with plot holes due to an unnecessarily complicated plot. Every obstacle had a completely fantastic and not a positive connotation fantastic solution, and it left me as a reader confused and very unimpressed. The story was interesting, but the telling was unorganized and outrageously complex. I cannot say if this feeling that endured throughout my reading is due to the lack of exposure to young adult writing anymore. I don't read young adults. I typically go out of my way to avoid young adult. And I don't know why. And I hope that it's not because I've outgrown it, because that would make me a little lackluster and depthless. Or if it was just sincerely a poor work on Christopher Pike's part, which happens to everyone. We all have bad writing, I promise you. I like Lex stories, but this was like surface level telling and thoroughly complicated. And it intertwined a lot of really amazing points and aspects of books and literature that I enjoy, like history. Oh my god. It had wonderful snippets of history. But that's all it was. Snippets of history that really didn't add anything to the story. And I was just like, okay, why did you even do that? It was enough that you could just like tell me that, as opposed to like exploring it only so far as dipping your toe in the water. That was unnecessary. So that's just my opinion. Obviously, there were other reviews on Goodreads that you can explore yourself if you do want to go down that avenue. A few theories behind not only my poor reception of this work, but many other poor reviews that were on Goodreads could be that this is a vastly larger novel than what Pike normally publishes, or what he has historically published. Witch World, I have here, is, it's a decent size. Like, normally I could probably do this in one sitting. It took me like a week to read because, one, I'm very busy, and two, whenever I don't enjoy something, it takes me a while. Like, if you ever seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's like 200 pages. It took me like 2 weeks to read because I hated it. And I'm sorry, Thor, I love you so much, but I'm a grown-ass woman reading something that like a 9-year-old. But anyway, I'm still gonna hold this up. So this is Witch World. And this is Last Act. This right here is like 3 times the size of his normal writing. And this was large. This is a larger novel than what he normally publishes. Like, I'm trying to find one. So Last Vampire is a series that I very much love by him. And Last Act isn't that much bigger, but it is slightly bigger. And he is known for smaller, more, I don't want to say bite-sized, but like bite-sized novels that are captivating and wonderful and incredible, and oh my god, I love them so much. Ugh. So yeah, as a child I read Pike, and he was known for writing excellent young adult works with sub 300 page counts. At that time, when I was a child, his longest published work was The Cold One. The Cold One is 350 pages. You could read this in an afternoon. Witch World is almost double that length. Witch World is a first in a series, as I said before, and I'm legitimately torn on if I want to tackle the others. I was so turned off by this book. Like, the story is interesting. I want to love the story, but it's unorganized and unnecessarily complex, and I don't enjoy that. I'm sorry, and I feel bad for that. I really do. But I would like to talk about some of his other works that I do love and highly recommend. So I want to catch up a little bit in chat after I show you these books, so please don't think I'm ignoring you, I promise. But Christopher Pike, this used to be my #1 go-to. If you asked me what my favorite book was, it would be The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike. The Midnight Club is very morbid, and can you imagine? I like something morbid. It's actually, it takes place at a youth hospice, and without going too much into detail about that, most of these kids have cancer, and they all know that they're dying very soon. And there is just like supernatural, paranormal thing that like is held over them. And like the Midnight Club is kind of like Dead Poets Society. They break curfew to get out of bed and share stories and things with each other. And it's incredible, and it's wonderful, and it's captivating. Even though it's very short, I think it's like 250 pages or something like that. Like, I'll look for you guys. It's 200, and it's wonderful. And like the character development, you don't even care about too much, and that might be my problem. Is that I'm accustomed to his works being so small that like that they're bite-sized, and you take away this feeling of amazement and wonder. You don't really worry about all the aspects that it's lacking. And it doesn't mean that he's not a good author, because I obviously high esteem, high regard. I absolutely adore his works. But maybe I just don't adore his longer works. Maybe that's not what gets me, yes, is the only thing I got for that. There are many young adult authors out there that are very capable of longer works. Like, I don't want to talk about Rowling right now because of what we have learned about her, but besides politics, we don't talk about politics. Harry Potter is like a staple in my childhood. A staple. I recall the first time I read Harry Potter, and those books are not small. Those books are very large, and she just, she is so talented, and I'm so angry. Let's keep going. On my shelf and on my to-read list is Riordan, and or if you're still in here, yes, it's gonna come up soon. I'm gonna start covering Rick Riordan's. Is that Percy Jackson? I think it is. So yeah, Tolkien. We all know. I love Tolkien, and Tolkien, despite the largeness of his novels and the complexity within them, Hobbit is actually like a story that he told to his very young son at bedtime. It's like 200 pages. It's like 300 pages. It is very small. It was written for children, and so were all the other ones. That's all I got. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm just not as exposed to young adult fiction as I used to be, because I am not a young adult anymore. I am an old person. Not that old. But yeah, I'm disappointed in this particular work. I might give Red Queen, which is the second installment, of Witch World shot to make sure. There are also other books by Christopher Pike that are on my to-read list that are more recent, and they're much larger. The Thirst series, which, from what I've ascertained, is like a retelling of the last vampire series, which I hope it's good. I hope that it's good. I love the last vampire. There are so many, like, you guys know I'm not a religious person, but like, I believe that some of the aspects in Christopher Pike's writings, such as not even just the last vampire, but the Cold One and Sadie, and all of those things, there were so many like Hindu characteristics. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the word. Just put in there, and like, I had to research. I had to know more. I needed to know more about this beautiful depth of story that is just peppered into these books. And I'm like, and I think that that's very successful. I think that is a very successful aspect an author can do, is like, oh my God, I have to know more about this religion, this like way of life, really. So I have studied a little bit about the Hindu religion and how beautiful it is as a culture and everything. So I think that that's a very successful thing that he has done. And like I said, this work, Witch World, and how much I disliked it, is not characteristic of this Christopher Pike author. He is amazing and wonderful, and I'm in awe of him every single day. So I didn't want to review this book, but I thought that it was important for all of you out there to know, you know, this guy, like, he's been an inspiration to me as a writer, as a reader, as a person, to be curious and open-minded, I guess. So I want you guys to go out there. I want you to give Christopher Pike a shot in whatever case it may be. If you want to read Witch World for yourself and then have a conversation with me about it, please, please, I am begging you, tell me what it is that I'm missing if you liked it. So yeah, thank you guys. Oh, there was one more work that I wanted to talk about, only because it's a little, it has a more contemporary adaptation. So Chain Letter is also one of my favorites. I love Chain Letter. And it's actually been adapted many times in cinema. And I think the most recent one, I don't know if it was Unfriended or if there was one that was called Chain Letter or something like that, but it happened to be adapted into like a cyberspace thing, where you get this chain email, you open it, and then like 7 days later you die or something like that. That's basically the essence of the story, but the story itself is way better because all of the movies that I've seen for adaptations of the story are awful. So there's that. I wanted to leave you guys with that one, but give Christopher Pike a chance. You don't necessarily have to read Witch World. You don't even have to read any of the ones that I thought were awesome. The Midnight Club, Last Vampire series, Last Act, Chain Letter, Bury Me Deep, The Cold One. Be prepared on The Cold One. That'll mess you up. But yeah, give them a chance. See how you feel about them. I would really appreciate it. Please DM me on the side. You can comment later on the video. I want to know what you guys think and your impressions of young adult writing as an adult. Like,